Stephen, it's lovely to see you here at the Sundance Film Festival. Of course, you've got your latest film, Locke, here, haven't you? Tell us a little bit about the movie.
Well, it's a sort of a slightly odd concept. It's a man in a car driving on a motorway at night, and it's almost real time. And in the course of the journey from Birmingham to London, his whole life falls apart because of one mistake that he made. And it's seeing how one man handles what I would think of as an ordinary tragedy. In other words, there are no assassins, there are no murders. It's just something that could happen to anyone, and he's a very ordinary man. But for the people involved, it's the end of the world.
And where did the idea come from?
Well, I'd just finished shooting the film with Jason Statham.
Hummingbird, yeah.
Hummingbird, yeah. And I found all of the stuff we'd shot from inside a car in urban environments absolutely beautiful, and I could just watch them, and I thought, this is like an installation. I thought of doing an installation piece at first, but then I thought, well, maybe we use that moving background as the theatre and then shoot a play within the theatre. And I knew it would need to be just one person, and if you're going to get one person on screen for 90 minutes, it better be Tom Hardy. And he's so brilliant and so watchable. So I approached him with the idea before the script and said, what do you think? And he said he would love to do it. So I wrote the script, and then I wrote the script over Christmas, and we were shooting in February. So it was one of those things where every door we pushed opened immediately. It was fantastic. Yeah.
Now, how long were you shooting for?
10 days.
10 days,
I know.
wow, that's quick.
I know. I mean, I started off with the idea that after shooting the first film was the basic job that you have before you is to get a load of people into a room, turn off the lights, get them to look at a screen for 90 minutes. That's the job. There's, all the other stuff about the rules of the game and what you have to do and what you can't do. And not true. All you have to do is get them to look. And, I thought, is there another way of doing this? And this way, in which we literally shot the whole film from beginning to end every time. We never broke it up. We didn't split it up into scenes. We shot everything every night, all the time. So we did either once or twice. We shot the whole film per night, and that meant that you've got it. After night 10, you've got it. You've got it every way you could possibly have it. So, it wasn't to prove a point to do it so quickly. It was like, you can do it that quickly.
An incredible way of doing it, though, isn't it? I mean, it's such a pressure on everyone to do it quickly, but also on Tom as well, because it's so dialogue heavy, isn't it? I mean, as you say, there isn't cutting away to other scenes or explosions or any of that. We're really just focused on his face and his reactions the whole way through, aren't we? I mean, how did he deal with that? Yeah,
I mean, actors love this challenge, and we were lucky enough as well to get really good actors to not even be seen, but to just be voices, like Olivia Colman and Ruth Wilson, who I thought would, and Andrew Scott, and I thought they would say no, but they turned up, and the way we shot it was that they were in a hotel conference room with a phone line open at all times to Tom, so the phone calls are real phone calls, and I would cue them. They would come up to the microphone in the hotel and make the call to Tom in the car. Tom had auto cue on the back of the truck, in front of him when we were on the low loader, and also he had it in the sat nav and the rear view mirror. So he didn't have to worry about learning the lines, which was great. So that freed him up to just do the role, and he was in his element, and he loved it. And it's hard work because we were shooting usually midnight till 4, sometimes 10 p.m. till 4 a.m. cold and wet. The M1, the A5, the least glamorous places you could imagine. But he just went with it, and every time was different. That was the great thing. And so when we came to edit it, it was like we had probably 1 billion possible films.
Was it an embarrassment of choices then? I mean, was it tough for you to knock it down?
It was, but funnily enough, we kept returning to the same nights. Certain nights he did it in one way, certain nights he did it in another way, and I was always telling him to bring it down, because Ivan Locke is a man who takes control and calms other people down. That's what he does every day for his job, and just keeping everything down and low. And some nights, usually when it was sort of 2 a.m. and everybody was at their lowest ebb, that's when the takes were so good. They're very gentle and very simple.
So how was it working as both the writer and the director of this piece? I mean, working with, fantastic talent as well, as you see, both on screen and off screen, just in audio, like people like Andrew and Olivia and Ruth you've talked about.
Yeah. I don't know, I think there is definitely room for looking again at the process of making a film, and I think actors hate the fractured nature of making a film. You know, you're splitting it up. It's got to be, in most films there's no choice, you can't just shoot it. You know, it's not possible to shoot the whole thing. But for an actor to just play the part as if it were a play is wonderful. They love it. And I said to all of the actors, treat this as a play. If it goes wrong, do what you do on stage, deal with it. And you know, they relish that. And I think that if you're going to look again at the way to make films, you're going to get these happy accidents where you can shoot it in 10 days and you can have happy actors. And when an actor sees a role they love, you'll get really good people. And that's, you know, that's the most important thing.
Tell me about some of those happy accidents then that made it into the final film.
Yeah, we had a car which, when we were on the low loader, the engine was running. Sorry, the engine wasn't running, but the car was sort of switched on so that the electrics were all lit. And the car was very low on petrol, which was our mistake. And the BMW lets you know it's low on petrol by making this noise. It's sort of like a really irritating sort of diddling, and that kept happening. And when we were doing one particular take, it happened, and Tom went, and so, and it happened twice in 2 different takes, sort of hitting the car to shut it up as Tom himself, as the person Tom, you know. And what we did is then put on that, you have a call waiting. So it's a brilliant reaction to, you have a call waiting, like, not again, not another one. So the little thing, and again, looking at new ways of doing this, we didn't care about continuity particularly of the background, because there was a thought that, well, if he's having this conversation on the M1 and then we cut to him having it on the A5, people will notice, but nobody cares. And we had a rattle in the car, something was rattling, and sort of going tick, 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 tick. And it was like the sandpaper, so we're going to have to do that again. And I listened back, and it was great. It was like even more annoying, you know, like bang, bang, bang. The car itself was like adding on the pressure. It was great. So I'm a great believer in let it happen and let it run. And I think everybody's happier. The crew are happier because they feel progress. They feel the minutes of time, you know, have been used wisely. Yeah.
And you've had a tremendous reaction to the film as well, haven't you? So in Venice, in London, obviously we're in Utah now, Park City at the Sundance Film Festival. Tell me a little bit about what that's been like for you.
Venice was the first time we knew that it had worked, really, because when you're doing an experiment like this, it could be nothing. It could not even be a film at the end. You know, it could be just nothing. But we showed it to people we knew, and of course everyone said they loved it. But sometimes people do say that. And then we showed it at Venice to real people, and the response, the emotional response, was overwhelming. I mean, people were in tears, and you know, we were getting the standing ovation. And in Venice, you're in this little thing in the theatre at Venice, which was built for Mussolini, where he used to stand up and do this to the crowd, and you almost felt like standing up and going, "Thank you." But it was amazing. And London again was a brilliant response. And then just, was it yesterday or the day before, we showed it in Salt Lake City to they're wonderful middle American audience. They are absolutely a middle American audience. And again, the lights go up, the tears, emotions, it's amazing. And you know, I was watching it in London, and there's a line where Ivan's wife asks him a question, and if he's got any sense, he'll say no, and he says yes. But the woman behind me said, just say no. You know, she's really into it. So it was great. So yeah, I mean, people, I think because it's about an ordinary man, an ordinary event that could happen to anyone, people really buy into it, I think.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, you do really invest in those characters, I think, even though, you know, we're just with them, we're gripped by them, we really are. That's both the script and the acting is phenomenal in the film. I want to talk a little bit about other things that you've got coming up, because you're such a busy guy, both as a writer and a director. You've got Pawn Sacrifice, haven't you? Tell me a little bit about that.
It's the Bobby Fischer story, and the story specifically of the game between Bobby Fischer and Boris Spassky in Reykjavik in 1972. And Tobey Maguire is playing Bobby, and it's just been edited at the moment, but apparently it looks fantastic. So yeah, very excited about it.
How did you come on board that one?
That was a commission. I mean, you know, some of the stuff I write for myself, some of the stuff I'm invited to write, and that was something I was invited to do. And when I did the research, it was amazing that, you know, the story, that story and that time and that East versus West coming together around a chess table was quite remarkable.
I mean, did you know very much about it before you took on the writing of that?
I vaguely remembered how important it was when I was a kid, and it was on first item on the news, a chess game.
Yeah.
And now people say, well, what? So that, just for that alone, it was worth looking again.
Yeah, and you also got another film coming up with Helen Mirren,
Yes.
haven't you? Tell us about that one.
It's called 100-Foot Journey. It's for DreamWorks, and it's about an Asian chef who moves to France, and sets up an Indian restaurant in the heartland of French cuisine, and all the fun that follows. And Helen plays a grande dame French restaurant owner who is sort of the opposition.
How much fun was it writing that one?
Fantastic. I mean, I didn't know I'd got Helen for the first draft, but by the time of the second draft, when she'd read that and we knew she was on board, then you can have a lot of fun because you know she can deal with it.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, how much difference does that make to you then as a writer and a director as well, when you know that you've got certain people on board? Like, with Locke you've got Tom, with 100-Foot Journey you've got Helen Mirren there.
I mean, it's really important. If you don't know who it's going to be, you have to imagine it's the best person it could possibly be and write for them and hope, But with Tom, when I knew it was him, then there's a lot of stuff you can do with the language, which you can make it, it's difficult to explain, but you can make it very ordinary. You can just say really ordinary things, and you can repeat them as well, which is the cardinal sin, but you can, because he'll do it in a way that will make it work.
He's so softly spoken in that
Yes.
film, isn't it? But you're kind of like there on the edge of
Yeah.
your seat, kind of
Yeah,
listening to him, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, what we decided at the beginning was he would be the most ordinary man in England. He's got an ordinary job. It's very rooted. It's not a job that you would say was glamorous, even though it does have its drama. And the Welsh accent was to again make him he brings no baggage because he's Welsh. It's not like Liverpool or London. And just then see how, with all of that ordinariness and the wife and the two kids, when this hand grenade goes off, what happens? It's not a real hand grenade, but the emotional hand grenade goes off.
Definitely is, definitely emotional hand grenade. And you've also got, is it Seventh Son coming up as well?
Yeah, that was another commission for it. That's a while ago. It was, again, when you're talking about knowing you've got a good person, Jeff Bridges, who I went up to Santa Barbara to meet him and talk about it, and he's just like, that's the thing, he's a legend, and so, you can be in awe, but you still have to remember that he's a craftsman as well, and that's looking really good.
Yeah, it's a fantastic cast you've got there. You've got Jeff Bridges, as you say, you've got Julianne Moore, haven't you? Got Kit Harington from Game of Thrones. It's such a fabulous cast. When you're writing something like that, it must be amazing to see your words on screen being acted by people like that.
It is. That feeling, the joy of that feeling never goes away, really. The first time it ever happens, it's sort of quite bizarre that an actor is speaking your words, but then it's great. And to see them delivered differently to how they were delivered in your head is either horrific or fantastic. But with a good actor, it's always fantastic.
Of course, as well, you've created the world of Peaky Blinders, haven't you, recently? We've been living that on BBC in the UK. Cillian Murphy, a fantastic cast as well, Helen McCrory in there too. And we know it's coming back for a second series as well. Tell us a little bit about what we could expect.
Well, there's a few mysteries that are going to be unravelled, but I've just finished writing finished episode 6 of it's all done, and we start shooting the end of February, and it's Cillian and the family expanding. They stay in Birmingham, but they expand, and it's part of, I see this as a saga literally of that will continue and continue as the family becomes respectable, and this is the next step on that path.
Are we going to be moving through the years, because it's been set in the 1920s, hasn't it?
Yeah, I want to take it. The original intention was to take it up to 1926 and the general strike. I think it could maybe go beyond that. We'd probably start to have difficulties with ageing the actors, but getting into the 30s would be great. And just look at what I hoped to do with the series was to look at English history in a different way, from a working class perspective, and give it the dignity that it deserves. And just see how this family and the big question of the whole, however many series there'll be, is, can you escape? Can you escape your roots? Can you move from class to class in England? So.
And what do you think the answer to that question will be?
Well, we'll see. Cillian gives it a damn good go, and Cillian is just so brilliant.
He is fantastic.
And we're even thinking it's not definite yet, but we'd love to do, instead of doing series 3, do a feature film.
Oh wow!
And then do series 4.
That would be fabulous.
I know. I think it would be great. I'd love to see it. It'd be good.
Would you? How would it differ? Do you think, kind of bringing that into the feature film world as opposed to the 6-part TV series?
Well, the 6-part TV series is fabulous. As a writer, television is by far a far better medium for the writer, because you're in control and you get time. You've got 6 hours, and with multiple series, you've got huge amounts of time to develop a character slowly and pace it properly. But if we do a film, it would be around an incident. I'd make it a big punch that moves them on to I don't know what it would be, but moves them on to the next stage. But it feels very cinematic to me, and I think I think people underestimate the fact that TVs themselves are so much better than they used to be. I mean, everybody's watching them on these big screens and HD and all of that. It's worth doing. It's worth taking the time to make it look fantastic. Whereas before, if people were watching a little bulbous thing, what was the point? But now, that's why I think film and television are starting to become the same thing.
Absolutely. I mean, the production values in TV now are phenomenal, aren't they? And you've got amazing casts. So it's always great casts, but you have a lot of maybe there's been, in the past, there's a little bit of a thing between TV and film, wasn't there? Maybe film actors didn't want to kind of go into TV. There's a lot of film actors now going into TV, don't you? I mean, do you see that as kind of continuing to the future?
Yeah, I mean, I think there was a time when if a film actor did TV, that was the end of his career. He was effectively handing in his notice as a film actor. But now I think TV is viewed more in the way that theatre used to be viewed, where an actor would go and do theatre to exercise his muscles, to do good work. But I think now in telly people do that, because they have, like Cillian has got 6 hours to now change that character and do what he's going to do. So actors love it.
And I heard also something about Eastern Promises 2 coming up.
Well, that's a long-standing hope of mine that we will be able to do. It's just getting everybody together and getting all of the... it's like making any film. I think the average gestation is something like 7 years or something, where you're trying to get the director, the actor, the cast, the money, everything into the same place at the same time. So watch this space, I think.
What would it be like? Would it be Cronenberg returning? Would it be some of those, Vigo returning as well? Is that what you'd like to see? Or?
We'll see. We'll see. I mean, negotiations are underway at the moment, so we'll see what happens.
What would you like to see happen in to those kind of characters if you're moving on from Eastern Promises that we saw a few years ago at the London Film Festival?
Well, I've written the script and it's done. So there are a few shocks along the way, so I won't reveal. But it's that sort of iron character of Vigo coming back and being given a mission effectively, and he has to go and do it.
Excellent, I love that. He's a great character, brilliant actor, of course, as well. I'm working with some incredible actors on you. What else can we look forward to coming up from you? I mean, you've got so much stuff that we talked about already.
I'm doing a script for David Yates, which is very exciting, and also a script for DreamWorks, which is extremely exciting as well. So there are two big things that we'll take up this year, and I'm also going to do another odd little short thing probably the start of next year to direct.
Okay, oh cool, excellent.
Yeah.
So I mean, in terms of genre and stuff, what are we looking at with those 3 projects?
Science fiction for DreamWorks and fantasy for David Yates.
Okay, cool. Are they kind of genres that you're kind of interested in kind of delving into? I'm
interested in the genres, but extremely interested in those directors, because they are the best. So when you're invited to do some work for people like that, you do it.
Are you going to be working with at DreamWorks?
Well, who knows? Who knows? Who knows?
Well, we look forward to finding out more about that. You're very much a man in demand, and it's very easy to see why. I'm sure that Locke is going to go down phenomenally well at the premiere tonight at Park City at the Sundance Film Festival. So no need to wish you good luck.
Touch me.
It's been lovely to speak to you, Stephen.
Thanks a lot.